Hello, Heart of Mary. This is Maggie Ness. I thought I'd sit down and just talk to you a little bit about what Jesus has been speaking to me during quarantine. Um, I should first tell you that normally I love Lent. I have a very melancholic personality, and so Lent is always that time where it's like, yes, I'll be deprived of those things that aren't good for me anyway, and then I'll have this wonderful resurrection. And it's just always been a very fruitful time for my prayer life, for my personal life, all aspects of my life. I had no idea that this was coming down the pike, this quarantine, this COVID stuff. None of us did. And it has been so hard. There's been so many tears, and just like you've heard your whole life that phrase, bored to tears. I didn't know that was an actual thing until, you're just crying all the time because it's so hard to be a mom. And so many moms are going through so much right now. Some of you are still working full time, and now you're homeschooling, and just God bless all of you for what you do. Just know that just as a community of Catholics, as Christian women, there is so much prayer, so much grace in this time right now. And while it's such a trick of the enemy to make us feel isolated and alone, you are not alone. You are not alone. There are so many people going through what you're going through, and there are so many people holding you in prayer. I find comfort in that myself when I'm just having those days where I feel like I'm going to lose it. The first week of quarantine for us, when my husband finally said, you're not going to the grocery store, we're staying in. He's basically the only one in the house that's coming and going. I just thought, okay, I'll get on Pinterest and I will find activities for my 2-year-old and my 1-year-old, and we will have family time. I'll put my phone away. We'll make it. This will be a blessed, beautiful time. So Monday rolls around and I go to get out our first activity, and we just end up having a terrible morning. And so we don't even attempt an activity Monday. Okay, fine. Tuesday, I think we painted, and we paint, all the time. Like, that's a regular activity in our house. But for whatever reason, she just wanted to do things with the paint that we can't do with paint in the house. And so this poor 2-year-old is just heard no, 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 no all day long. And when they're that little, you have to find the yeses for them, And I think we did kinetic sand one day. I tried to make kinetic sand. It didn't set right. She's screaming because it feels disgusting on her fingers. And so the end of the week rolls around. We've tried several things. Nothing has worked. I'm bored to tears. She's bored to tears. She also has a very extroverted personality. I'm an introvert. So it felt like a war zone in our house. Maybe that sounds overly dramatic, but it just felt heavy. And I finally just sat down defeated in prayer and said, okay, I'm trying, Jesus. Like, I saw this as a beautiful opportunity for our family to come together. I sat down with you in prayer. I was turning off my phone for several hours during the day just so I wouldn't be tempted to enter into the anxiety, the news, all of those things. And it's not working. It's not enough. My husband came home from work one day early this week, and we were going to take the kids to this animal park. You actually don't get out of your car. You drive through. You look at elk and bison, and it's beautiful scenery. So I'd been telling my daughter all day that this is what we were doing. We were going to the animal park. And when it was time to leave, she's looking very confused, starts sobbing her eyes out, because in her 2-year-old head, going to the park means we're going to the playground. And so she's just a wreck. And as a woman, we feel responsible for the emotions and the temperature, I'll say, of our home. And my best is just, it hasn't been good enough. And I sit down in prayer when I get home because I lost it in the car on the way home. I was yelling and crying, and it was ugly. And I just lay down on my bed to take a minute to collect myself, and I hear him say, my power is sufficient. Power is made perfect in weakness. Excuse me. It's my grace is sufficient. Power is made perfect in weakness. But the truth is, ladies, as a culture, we don't know how to be weak. That is trained out of us from the beginning. The reality is everyone is weak. Everyone has sins. Everyone has faults and failings, but we learn how to hide them as women. We learn how to put our best foot forward. And certainly there's a time and a place for that. And so I said, okay, Jesus, this is my poverty. This is my poverty. The temperature of my home, it's not good right now. And what's going on inside of me, I feel like I'm failing as a wife. I'm so burnt out at the end of the day from trying to keep the kids and myself sane inside of a home that I feel like I have nothing left to give to my husband. And as I was just going through this laundry list of things I felt like I was failing at, I'm remembering the story of Mary and Martha from scriptures. And just a quick recap. Mary and Martha are friends of Jesus, and he is in their home teaching. And Martha's running around trying to serve everyone in her home, and Mary is sitting at his feet listening. And Martha says, hey, Jesus, like, tell my sister to get up and help. And he says, you are worried and anxious about a great many things, Martha. Mary has chosen the better part, and it will not be taken from her. In my whole life, I've frustrated with this scripture, only because as women we tend to say, oh, I'm more like Mary, or oh, I'm more like Martha. But I think the reality is most of us have seasons of our life where we're like either both or one or the other. You know, we don't just get to put ourselves in this Mary or Martha box. Life isn't that pretty and that neat. And I think that for the first time I realized that it wasn't that Jesus was saying to Martha, sitting at my feet is better. That's what Mary is doing. But what he was saying to Martha, I think maybe, is that you can't hold it all together. You can't even try. And the reality is, what these people in your home need right now, it's not the food you're making. It's not how you've decorated. They need me. And maybe Mary recognized that nothing she could do for these people was what Jesus could do for these people. And that when we give Jesus the freedom to move in the lives of others, that necessarily means probably they're going to be a little uncomfortable. It means that we're not going to know what kind of balm to apply to their wounds, because maybe we can't see the wound that needs to be addressed the most. I hate that I'm not able to comfort my 2-year-old. She's a very joyful child. That's what people are always telling us about her. There's so much joy, so much joy. And so when she's upset, she's not upset very often, it kills me that I don't know how to help her. And I think what killed me even more that day was I was so exhausted from the previous days. The only person I could think about was myself. That's the harsh reality. There's this scene from The Passion of the Christ where Jesus falls and Mary meets him, and he looks up at her and says, "See, Mother, I make all things new." So my question for you all, maybe during this quarantine, is do you have the courage to allow Jesus to make things new in your life and in the life of those around you? Because he says, "See, I'm making it new," with a cross on his back and a crown on his head and blood in his face and his body in the dirt. Because that's what it looks like sometimes when we're making things new. Ladies, we can't give our families everything that they probably need right now. We probably can't even give ourselves everything that we need right now. I keep thinking of when Pope Francis became Pope, he prayed for a poor church. And I have never felt my own poverty more than I do in this season. But there is so much grace in the poverty The Lord is close to the brokenhearted. The Lord came for the sick. And if we're constantly putting ourselves in a place where we're not brokenhearted, we're not sick, we think we don't need to be fixed, or we're trying to fix everybody else, we haven't made room for him to come in and work. And so my prayer for all of you during this quarantine, because who knows how long it's going to last, maybe through Easter, I hope not, but maybe, is that we can just get out of Jesus's way. That I can let him comfort my 2-year-old. I don't even know what that looks like, but that I can allow him to do that in my heart. I can make room for him to do that. That when I don't have words of comfort for my husband, who's had a really long day, that I can just say, Jesus, I trust you. I trust that the disappointment my family is feeling, that I'm feeling, is for a purpose, and that you are making me new. I hope you all survive the next couple of weeks. Please know of my prayers to Jesus through Mary. Amen.